Good morning, welcome to this Friday morning, and we're going to be continuing in 1 Samuel chapter 20, reading from verse 34. It says, Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger. On the second day of the feast he did not eat, because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. In the morning Jonathan went out to the field for his meeting with David. He had a small bow with him, and he said to the boy, "Run and find the arrows I shoot." As the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. When the boy came to the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen, Jonathan called out after him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then he shouted, "Hurry, go quickly, don't stop." The boy picked up the arrow and returned it to his master. The boy knew nothing about all of this. Only Jonathan and David knew. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy and said, "Go carry them back to town." And so this morning I'd like to speak. Yesterday we used the same text. We spoke about not always wanting to be the main guy in the story, and we're happy to play the role God wants us to play. And this morning I'd like to talk to us about wisdom. Yesterday evening our president spoke about the way forward for us as a country, and all of us would react to that in a different way. I thank God that especially at Center Church and across the church, I trust that we don't have groupthink, and we don't all agree 100%, and we don't always have the same opinions about everything, that we are different and we're unique. But just because we are different and unique, and we don't always see things the same way, and we don't always agree with the decisions that are made, and whatever your response was to the announcement that the president made yesterday evening, we can do very little about the decision that's been made. And that's very important. Even in this text, Jonathan is angry with his dad because his dad tries to throw a spear at him, but he's not so miffed about that. He's miffed at his dad's treatment of David. He's incredibly angry with his dad about that. Yet him and David don't try and start some insurrection and a rebellion against their father. They understand that God had put Saul in as the king. And Saul had made a decision. No matter how unpopular they decided, he wanted to kill David, and it was best for David to leave. That was the decision. And there was very little that they could do about it. And so when Jonathan does go eventually chat to David, he says to him, "The Lord has decided that you should leave." And I love that in the middle of a decision that he doesn't necessarily agree with, he understands that God is still at work. And friends, whatever your response is to how things are happening at the moment, I think our government is leading strong and with a steady hand at the moment. But whatever your decision is around that, I think it's so easy for us to get sucked in and become another one of these people on social media and all over the place that shoots our mouth off. And we've got all these keyboard warriors at the moment who've got 1,001 opinions about things. And the crazy thing is, you can have all your opinions and voice them, but it actually achieves nothing because you don't have the authority to back it up. God has given the authority to the government of our country, and God gave the authority to Saul in this situation, not to David and Jonathan. And so they had to work within the bounds of the decision that had been made. And so that's the first thing. So they're sitting with this decision. Jonathan's angry. But when I said we're going to talk about wisdom, how does Jonathan process his anger? Because that's really, really important. Well, the next morning he wakes up, and he doesn't just run off to go tell David in his anger, and he's just frustrated and whatever, and run off and tell David, "I can't believe this," because he knows that his father's secret agents are watching him. So what he does is he engages his brain a little bit, and he uses wisdom. And so what he does is he takes this little boy along with him, and he says, "We're going to go do some archery." And he goes and does some archery. And so if these secret agent guys had come along, they would have seen Jonathan go out to the field with the little guy that he always takes to go fetch the arrows, because Jonathan's a prince and he's not going to fetch his own arrows. He shoots the arrows, and they're like, "Right, he's doing archery for himself." And then they go back home, and once they've gone back home with the little boy, then Jonathan's able to meet up with David. And this is the thing. Jonathan's actions there were the thing that saved David. Because if he hadn't done it that way, it was very easy or very likely that David would have been captured and then ultimately killed. And what Jonathan didn't do, he didn't allow his anger and his rage at his father to mist up his thinking, and then just to react in anger, either at his dad in rebellion, or just run out and go tell David, "I can't believe this," flip. He still took measures, wise measures in place to make sure that David was protected. And this is something I really do feel for us at the moment in our country, that We need wisdom going forward. We really, really need wisdom. And no matter what our response is to some of the decisions that are being made, if we're going to react from a place of anger and we're going to react from a place of frustration, perhaps you've been laid off by your work. Perhaps you've been told that you're getting a salary cut. And there are things that are happening that feel unfair, like David. And you feel like these things and you're angry with people, like, how could this happen to me? Problem is, if I give into that anger or I give into that frustration and I allow it to start making decisions for me, I am unable then to help others because my judgment is clouded. And that's what we see with Saul. In his anger, he just flip and throw a spear at someone. Jonathan gets angry with his dad, but he's able to calm down and go, but hang on. I need to go tell David. But there's a way I need to go tell David. And can I say this, that it's incredibly important at the moment that we do exercise wisdom, that we aren't these keyboard warriors that just shoot our mouths off and just say whatever we feel like. Because we do speak on behalf of Jesus, and we do speak on behalf of the church, and we carry a message of hope now more than ever. And I'm not sure what the future is going to look like. I know for Center Church, we'll keep communicating clearly with you guys. I'm not sure what stage 4 lockdown looks like exactly at the moment. We've got some information, but we'll process that with you as a church. But this is a time for hope, and this is also a time for us to engage wisdom and to not get caught up and boil up with emotions, but to be able to be still before God and say, Lord, you know what? The decisions have been made, all the stuff is going on, but you know what, Lord? I recognize you in this process, and I submit myself to you. Whatever you need to do in me and through me, Lord, please come and do that. So I hope this has been helpful. This afternoon, Cindy and I are going to be having a couple of catch-ups with people, coffee catch-ups, so we'll be sending out those details during the course of the day, and if you'd like to catch up with us there, love to see you then. Other than that, have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.